Good morning. It's Monday, new week. That means new verses. But let's start first with prayer. Father, thank you for your goodness and your love and each one of our children. Thank you for the big person that's helping today. Please help the children to listen and learn and obey. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Here are verses. Everybody stand up, please. Stand up and say our verses and sing everybody together. Todos, ready? Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. John 1:3, all things were made by him. Ephesians 6:1, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Okay, everybody, sit down. Stand up when it's your turn. Ready? Children, obey your parents in the Lord. Children, obey, for this is right. Oh, children, obey your parents in the Lord. Children, obey, for this is right. Children, obey, for this is right. Okay, Ephesians 4:32. Be ye kind. Oh, no, that's not the one. Where'd be ye kind go? We lost that verse. Up there it is. Be ye kind one to another. Psalm 139:14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I will praise thee, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I will praise thee, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. This week's verse is, as for God, his way is perfect. Here we have a little boy, and he got hurt. He's in bed with his teddy bear, and look at that. We say, why did God let that happen? God has a reason. We don't know why, but he has a reason. And that's kind of what our story is about. Remember, we were talking about Joseph and how his daddy loved him and gave him a special coat, but his brothers hated him. And he had dreams, remember, that his brothers' piles of hay bowed down to him. He had a dream that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. He didn't know what it meant, but it made his brothers jealous. And what did they do? They grabbed him, they put him in a pit, and then they sold him as a slave. He went down to Egypt, and he didn't cry and moan and groan. Well, he did a little bit, but then he decided, okay, done crying, let's get busy. And he got a very important job. He got a job for a very important man, and he became his highest, most trusted servant, and decided everything that would go on in his house. But remember, his wife wanted Joseph for her boyfriend, and he said, no, I'm not going to be your boyfriend. And she got angry and hated him, and she told a lie about him, made up a story. And what happened? He went to jail. And there he was in jail. And the butcher and the baker had dreams, and Joseph told them what they meant. Well, the king had a dream, and he didn't know what it meant. And his servant, who had been in jail, and Joseph had told him his dream, I remember. There was a man in jail who told me my dream, and it happened exactly what it was. So the king called Joseph out of jail, and he went before him and asked if he could tell him what his dream meant. And Joseph said, I can't, but God can, and I'll tell you what and God will tell us what it means. And the dream was about cows, fat cows and skinny cows, fat corn and skinny cows, corn. And God said that there would be 7 years when lots of things would grow, and then there were 7 years when nothing would grow, and it would be terrible. And the king said, what do I do? Joseph said, pick a very wise man who can save up your crops so that there'll be food in the bad years. And the king thought, well, who can I pick? Joseph's the only one that knows, and so I'll pick him. Well, Joseph was a young man. He was only 30 years old, but he had been faithful with his father. He had been faithful to Potiphar. He had been faithful in jail, just doing what was right, and God was now going to use him to help the land. So remember, for 7 years, the king made him the most important man except for him, and everybody had to bow down to him just like the king. So Joseph said, plant all the land that will grow food, and they brought in water, the areas that didn't grow, and they planted and they built big barns, and they stored all the food away. And the people on their own land, they planted as much as they could too. And they stored it in theirs, but they didn't make good barns like Joseph did. And that the rats got in there and they ate their stuff and it got diseases. But Joseph was very smart. He knew how to build the barns so that the animals couldn't get in, and so the bugs couldn't get in, and so the stuff wouldn't get all wet and nasty. He was really smart. Well, the 7 good years were over and the barns were full, and then came the bad years. And so the people in the land went and opened their barns, but what did they find? The rats had gotten in there, and the bugs had gotten in there, and the stuff is all nasty and disgusting and gross. It got good because they didn't do it the way Joseph told them. That's too much work. I'm not going to do that. They didn't want to listen to the right way. They did it their own way, and all their hard work was wasted. All their food was wasted, and then they had nothing. And they went to Joseph, and they said, what do we do? He said, give me money, you can buy food. And Joseph opened up the storehouses, and instead of putting the food in, they took it out, and the people bought it. But after a while, the people ran out of money. And Joseph said, well, what do you have? Well, I have cows. I have sheep. I have camels. Anything that they had, they sold so that they could buy food. But then that ran out. And Joseph said, what do you have? We don't have anything. Sell me your land. They sold the land. But then that was gone. Then they were hungry again. Then what did they do? Okay, you work for me. You work for me. And everybody in the whole land sold all their property to the king. And they were all working for the king. And well, far away in the land where Joseph's daddy and his brothers lived, they ran out of food too. And they had to go down to Egypt and buy food. Well, Joseph knew his brothers were going to come. He knew it. And so what did he do? He put the police outside the city so that when his brothers came, they could get them. Told them exactly what to look for. Sure enough, his brothers came and the police found his brothers. And they brought him before Joseph. And Joseph knew, yep, that's my brothers all right. He recognized them. He hadn't seen them in probably 15 years. 14 years. He hadn't seen them in 14 years, but he recognized him. His 10 brothers, his 10 mean brothers, not his little brother. His little brother was still at home, but there were his 10 mean brothers that had sold him. He pretended that he didn't know who they were. Anyways, you came here to spy. No. We're brothers. We're all brothers. No, you're not. You're spies. No, we're all brothers. Well, are there any more? Well, we have one brother at home with our dad. Oh, your dad, is he alive? Yes, he's alive. Joseph wanted to find out about his little brother and his dad. Well, I think you're spies. No, 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 no. Honest. We came here to buy food because we don't have any. See, we brought money. No, you're spies. And he put them in jail. 3 days they sat in jail. Now, Joseph wasn't doing it to be mean. He was doing it to see if they had learned their lesson. And yes, because when he didn't know. I mean, they didn't know that that was him. See, he was dressed differently, and he didn't talk their language. He spoke the Egyptian language, so they couldn't understand him. But he could understand them, and he was listening, and they were saying, oh, this is because of what we did to Joseph. That's why we're having problems. God is punishing us. So Joseph put him in jail to think about it for a while. 3 days later, he brought them out and said, okay, listen, you can go home. One of you must stay. One of you has to stay in jail. And then you come back and bring your little brother. You bring the brother that you said you had. No, our dad will never let us bring him. Nope, don't come without him. But if something happens to him, my dad will die. His other son died, and now this one dies. My dad, his favorite son, died. And if this happens to him now, this little one, nope. And he picked Simeon, his brother Simeon. Simeon was the meanest. He was such an ugly person, and that's the brother that he sent in jail. When the brothers got home, they told their father what had happened. And they said, we have to take Benjamin with us to Egypt. And the father said, no, he cannot. His brother is dead. If something happens to him, I will die. Well, Simeon will have to stay in jail. Too bad. Benjamin is not going. The food all ran out. And Jacob told his sons, go down to Egypt, buy more food. And they said, nope, we can't do that. The governor said if we do, we have to bring Benjamin. No. And then the little one started crying, I'm hungry. So Jacob said, okay, Benjamin can go. Now, he could have lied. He could have lied and sent somebody else and said it was Benjamin. But he didn't. He didn't lie because he learned a long time ago not to lie. He used to be a terrible liar. But God taught him not to lie. So he sent Benjamin. And all the brothers went down to Egypt. And when they went to see Joseph they all bowed down before Joseph again. Didn't know it was him, just like in Joseph's dream. And Joseph sent him to his house. He said, go to my house. And he had lunch for them that day. And he sat them all around the table according to their age. And as they're sitting at the table thinking, how did he know who was the oldest? How did he know that? And he gave them all food. He gave Benjamin a big pile of food, the best there was. Now, Joseph didn't sit at the same table with him. No, he sat at a different table to listen. Well, it was time to go home. And when it was time to go home, he sent them on their way. But then he sent soldiers after them. And they caught up with him down the road, and they said, what did you do? You stole the governor's cup, his special cup that he tells fortunes in. You stole that. They said, oh, no. We didn't do that. He said, yes, you did. Well, they said, look through it all, and whoever you find it, you can kill that person because we didn't steal it. They looked all through the stuff, starting at the oldest brother and all the way down. They got to Benjamin, the youngest brother, and there it was in his bag. How did it get there? Joseph told the servant to put it there. And they said, and the soldiers grabbed him and they said, you're going to jail and you're going to die. And the brothers all said, no, take me. Not him. They said, no, you didn't do wrong. He did, he dies. And the brothers all said, no, his daddy will just die. They all went back to Egypt. before Joseph. And Joseph acted really angry. And he heard the brothers just say, no, 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 Daddy. And Joseph started to cry because he realized his brothers were sorry and they had learned their lesson. And so what did he do? He sent everybody out of the room. And he told his brothers who he was. They were scared. Here, he was the most important man except for the king. What was he going to do to them? Joseph said, no, you are mean and ugly. You are mean. But God had a plan. There's going to be 5 more years when there's no food. I want everybody to move down here to this land. Go tell Daddy. So Joseph sent his brothers all home. They went to hotel with wagons and all sorts of stuff so they could bring all their stuff to Egypt, their children, their animals, and all that stuff. And they went to see their daddy. And they said, Daddy, look, Joseph's alive. He's in Egypt. And so what did they do? Jacob was so happy. They all went down to Egypt. They took everything they had and they moved down to Egypt while it was where there was food and a place and Joseph gave them the best place in all the land where there was a little bit of grass for their animals. Oh, and Joseph saw his daddy one more time. He was so excited to see his daddy. His daddy thought he was dead. His daddy thought he would never see him again. Joseph thought he would never see his daddy again, but he did. God had a plan. His plan was perfect to save his people he had lots of things he wanted to do. Joseph didn't understand it. Jacob didn't understand it, but God did. Our verse this week is, as for God, his way